Open the regular meeting, Dune City Council, Wednesday, March 14th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Mayor Robert Forsythe,
Here.
Council President Sheldon Meyer,
Present.
Councilor Susan Snow. Here. Councilor Ellen Montgomery.
Here.
Councilor Duke Wells.
Here.
Absent and excused are Councilors Robert Orr and Councilor Tom Mallon.
Would you please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's passed. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that's approved. Okay, City Council goal setting meeting, February 13th. We're just kind of going down
That's a consent
to the
agenda.
consent agenda, what that's covering. Announcements.
Let me take care of that.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Kind of long.
It's going to be long.
Okay, on March 20th at 5 p.m., tsunami experts from the Office of Emergency Management will be here at City Hall to discuss tsunamis and their impacts with local citizens. This will be a casual question and answer format meeting and should be proved to be informative for everybody who attends. On March 24th at 10 a.m., West Lane Ambulance will be holding a Stop the Bleed training event at the Lane Community College campus. The outcome of the event is to train a large number of individuals on how to stop bleeding in a victim of a disaster or a criminal event. Parking is limited, so be prepared to park some distance away, like perhaps at the high school, and walk to the event. AWR 319 training, and those are a FEMA number that is assigned. It will be March 22nd at 5 p.m. at the Woodburn Police Department Community Room in Woodburn, Oregon. And basically, I'm hoping that we can convince a number of citizens and local contractors to take the day and go over there and attend this training, because it will teach them how to do damage assessments on structures and buildings, homes, that sort of thing, after a catastrophic event, so that we can get people back in their homes if they're livable as soon as possible. A town hall meeting will be held on April 18th, that's a Wednesday at 6 o'clock, to discuss public safety concerns. All Dune City residents are encouraged to attend and discuss public safety concerns. Also present will be Lane County Sheriff, Sergeant Michael Brewster of Oregon State Police, and Florence Police Chief Tom Turner. A budget committee meeting is scheduled for April 24th at 5 p.m., at which time there will be a review of the third quarter of fiscal year 2017-2018 and introduction of the budget meeting schedule for the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget. Dune City announces that it will now take nominations for our Volunteer of the Year award. Nomination forms are available on the city's website or here at City Hall. And I'm anxious to see how many volunteers we get.
See how many people jump up and do that, right?
Yes.
Any questions for Jamie? All right, old business. We're still trying to appoint an individual for the Lane Act.
I was hoping somebody ran into somebody who said, oh yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
I don't know, I think the closest thing we came up with was one of us alternating.
So far, right. But we do have the option, if you can find a resident that is willing to donate their time to participate.
bring back.
One of you would be the officials, and then they would be the assigned.
Oh, I see. Yeah. All right, we need to work on that. Volunteers. Got it. City building program.
I'm currently in the process of rewriting, well, I have rewritten with the approval of our city attorney, chapter 151 is part of Title 15. Those are our building regulations. That whole chapter is specifically, basically, with regard to the contract that we currently have between Northwest Code Professionals to conduct our building inspection and operate our building inspection program. As you know, during the last legislative session, they were trying to resolve a conflict that occurred. The Attorney General's office has declared that it might possibly be unconstitutional for cities to contract out those services. And we don't really know where the other shoe is going to fall on that. In the meantime, the Building Commission has indicated that it would pursue violations and fines and penalties against those cities that are violating if you don't do something about it. Anyway, so we're trying to negotiate the language of 151. The Northwest Code Professionals wants it to read one way. In order for us to get out of this without penalties, it has to read another way. And you will be bringing that. I just wanted to get you up to speed. It's a lot of time is being put into that as we negotiate resolution of the issue. And it may involve my attending 2 days of school in Salem so that I can become the building official. That's all.
LUBA appeal update.
As you probably read in the paper, and the document is actually before you, the appeal has been denied. The LUBA board having found that they don't have jurisdiction. That's in a nutshell. That's probably not accurate enough, but that they don't have jurisdiction. The an appeal of that decision can be done within 21 days.
Rivas versus Dune City update.
That one, the attorney, there was a hearing scheduled, but because of an error, a clerical error on the part of our attorney, that got postponed twice, and they got the error. Basically what happened is he prepared a proposed order and had it dismiss the whole thing instead of just the part that was supposed to be dismissed. And so they had to get all that straightened out. So that's all been straightened out. But he has requested rescheduling of that hearing now for the last 3 months, and it hasn't been scheduled yet. So he's going to push a little bit harder on that. But I wanted to give you an update of what's going on.
Yeah, it's been a while. New business. Procedure for less consideration.
This is before you because of me.
Excuse me?
This is before you because of me.
Okay.
Our code does say that a LUX, which is a land use compatibility statement, it is not actually a finding of any kind. It doesn't issue permits. It doesn't issue anything. It is merely a statement by the city that that the proposed action that the LUX is being filed for doesn't conflict with our code. That's the only thing. And so during the marijuana LUX discussion, allegations were made that our charter reads differently, and it does. And there are different sections of code that read differently that say it must be done by a planning secretary, which we have in the form of a temporary part-time employee. Our insurance company's not real thrilled with the idea of a temporary part-time employee making that kind of decision. So the next course would be the city administrator, but it doesn't say that. It says the planning commission. Well, I wanted to give you an example. These are Lux applications that we receive all the time. I mean, this would be going, it's been on the planning commission agenda for the last month at least. They have been unable to get a quorum together, so they haven't been able to meet. And so I put it on this one just so we can get these people moving. We're holding up a bunch of people. When you get to the one regarding the dock, the Oregon Marine Construction is here this evening, and he'd like to explain to you so we can get on the record and explain how the Lux works and what it's all about. That it really has, in fact, we don't have jurisdiction on the water anyway. And so I'm frustrated that there is a miscommunication or a misunderstanding by our residents as to what a Lux is because of the marijuana thing. So I put them on the agenda so that you can tell me, no, they don't have to go to the planning commission. Yes, they have to go to the planning commission. It's a type 1 decision, which means it's done ministerially. It's done in-house. You know, code is clear and objective. It says yes, no. Can't be bigger than this. Has to be located here. Has to have this, that, or the other thing. There's no subjective. I don't have to say, well, maybe, maybe not. You know, it's clear cut. And so the way the city has been treating those in the past has been permit tech issues them. Permit tech's not available, city recorder issues them. And then when we had the city administrator was issuing them. But because of the marijuana issue, the question came up. So I'm seeking guidance. Do you guys want to hear them every time? Do you want the planning commission to hear them every time? And that's why it's here. So we've got a sample of virtually every kind of Lux except the marijuana that have come in this month that normally we just approve. You know, we check their site plans, make sure they meet setbacks, make sure they have everything they're supposed to do, not too big, you know, the usual code stuff, and we sign off on them. But that's being questioned now, so.
Being questioned by whom, and you mean the entire process?
By the resident, yeah, the entire process is being questioned by the residents. I'm hopeful that should the proposed marijuana ordinance move forward and the ban fail, that will take care of any Lux, because then it does force that to go through a conditional use permit under current language if it's not changed by somebody along the way. So I'm not asking about marijuana Lux. I'm asking about septic, docks, water rights, and our grant for a hiking and biking trail in the shoreline zone. Do you guys want to hear every single one of those that comes down the pipe?
I don't know
No,
why, I don't know why we would.
To me, that's your job. You know, when I was reading through these, I didn't realize that that's why it was on there.
Yeah.
Going, you know, I knew we didn't have jurisdiction over the water. I thought maybe it was on some staircases coming down to where, you know, Oregon Marine was gonna take over, you know, over the water, so.
Well, the whole question was not so much about the different procedures or
It was
what
over
these
the
projects are,
process.
is the process.
Yeah.
Do you want this process to come before the planning commission every time we get one? Or do we need to draft language for our code that allows those decisions, that clarifies that it's a ministerial decision, meaning it's done in-house. We have what we need to know and identify who in-house can do it now that we don't really have the official planning secretary anymore.
You had something, Shane?
I agree with Duke. I think that it makes sense to me that that's, you know, your guys' job to do that. If there's an issue that is aberrant, or if you need some help, I would suggest that, you know, it might make sense to eventually get it up to us. But it seems like these are day-to-day routine kinds of issues, and if people have a question about it, then then it might come up the ladder to us. But for this point, I don't think we need to hear every single thing that's going on.
The problem with what you just said is that there's no notice issued to anybody about the Lux. When a Lux request comes in, we just get the Lux request. There's no obligation under a ministerial decision to notify anybody. So, you know, just because a neighbor doesn't like the fact that maybe somebody's getting a new dock,
Right.
or that they're putting in a new septic system and they're tracking mud on the roads,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I should say no, you know?
No.
So,
Is it language we're having a problem with?
it is loose. Our code language is very loose on that. It is not specific. It doesn't, you know, the position of city administrator is relatively new to Dune City, and so it hasn't filtered all the way through the code yet. And so maybe that's one way to.
So what does the code currently say that's causing this question?
The code currently says the planning secretary
Uh-huh.
or the planning commission.
Oh, I see, okay.
I'm a little conflicted on this as far as basic, you know, adding onto your garage, whatever, simple things make sense, but land use compatibility covers a whole lot of ground up to and including marijuana grow operations that should have been brought forth. There, I don't know how to draw a line, bring these up, don't bring these up.
Right.
That's
I
a
know.
tough line to draw,
Mhm.
but I think there should be a line that some things should be brought forth. But that'll go through the chain of command from you to the planning commission, is that correct? And then to us, or does it go?
Well, you are the appeal for the planning commission.
Right.
Oh, okay.
You are the appeals board.
So, yeah, it sounds.
So if somebody doesn't like what the planning commission says, then they come to us.
Yeah.
For the appeal.
I think that's the right process.
And this is before you now, because the planning commission hasn't been able to get a quorum, and we're holding up a lot of construction projects.
Thanks.
Move forward.
Let people get to work.
Just real quick, I think using the marijuana Lux, I don't think it ever would have got there. I'm going back in history, that if the council at the time, I'm gonna say, I'll point finger at me, you know, did more due diligence on what was going on at the state level. When we were there, we thought it was just a retail sales question, and we missed the
The
boat
rest
on,
of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the rest of it. And so I think if we'd have known that at the get-go, it would have never come up in the first place, you know. But to me, this is Dune City office business, you know, city administrator business, planning secretary business, to me. And if there's a problem arises, then I think you certainly can come to us.
Okay. And I'll figure out, because I understand what you're saying, the difficulty, you know, Lux with regards to septic docks, water rights, and grants, okay, but marijuana Lux go through,
Yeah.
have to have a conditional use permit.
And in a small town where we're having a hard time trying to even get a committee together, sort of like a planning committee, it seems that we need to have an alternative. I mean, we can't just do nothing because the planning committee can't get a quorum over the next 4 months because of whatever reason. So we've got to have that, we've got to have an alternative to that.
Now, as I mentioned, we have a gentleman with Oregon Marine Construction here, if you'd like to talk to him a little bit about it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I have a little bit better knowledge of what you can or cannot do as from my past history with the port, but please, come on up and introduce yourself.
Over here.
I'm gonna, let's take that over here and then you can sit right there.
Well, my name's Darwin Stroud, and I am the owner and only employee for Environmental Compliance Strategies. I'm a consultant, and I work with Oregon Marine Construction, and I do all the permitting and the permit process, whether it be Department of State Lands, Army Corps of Engineering, local and county building applications and that. And so in this instance, we normally have to provide a permit packet. And again, one of the things for the Department of State Lands and for the Army Corps of Engineers is you do have to have sign off from the local and city planning or county planning department, such as the land use compatibility statement. And the one that's provided, I don't know, have they ever seen the one that is actually came with the permit packet?
Yes, it's in their packets.
Okay, if you notice that really, and with all the other cities and counties that we deal with, normally it can still go to your planning commission, but there's a box that you just simply check. It's a real simple form. You check this project will be consistent with the comprehensive plan and land use regulations when the following local approvals are obtained. And then you can just put a check in them, and if not, you would put other, like in comments, we see comments that you must obtain building permits for the abutment and for the gangway going down to the dock, or you must have something like that. It doesn't permit it from going to your commission to have them review it and to look at it. It just basically states we have some considerations, and once you sign it, it moves the process forward where we can now start the permitting process and public review process with the Department of State Lands. And I wrote, although it sounds like it's pretty favorable, I have written up and spent some time talking about the process and how it impacts small business when you slow down the process. Sometimes the process needs to be slowed down. I agree with that. But in this case, it's a real simple form. Every other municipality and county that we deal with, normally it's a planning official or somebody who reviews it, signs off on it, and moves it forward. It's normally a one-day process. Normally we go into the building department and it's signed by a planning official, and basically they will take a look at it later. And they will, and because they know that it's going to take me 3 months to get through DSL, or 6 months to get through Army Corps of Engineering. So what is really important for us is that as a small business is that we keep the process moving forward, and especially on something as simple as this. So how it normally works is DSL can take about 3 months. And then they may make changes to the design, and we don't even start the engineering on a project till after it comes back. So I have another 4 weeks in engineering. So I'm up to about 4 months already. And that's if I didn't get comments from Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, Oregon DEQ, Native Tribes. It has to go through a pretty good public review process to get one of these permits through DSL or through the Army Corps of Engineering. And so you're already up to about 4 months, and then it comes back to the local building permit. Now I have my engineering. Now I'm presenting my engineering to you for your review and to get the building permits to construct the gangway and normally the abutment. So as you can see, it can take me about 5 months if things go well. Well, if you know in Oregon, you only have a limited time frame to work on lakes. It's called the in-water work period. Mm-hmm. So I only have from November 1st to like February 15th. And outside of that time, we're over in the Willamette Valley because their in-water work period is actually like June to October 31st. So our company is doing stuff in the Willamette Valley and other locations in Oregon, driving, piling, building docks, boat ramps and stuff. And then we come over in the coast region and start doing the lakes, Wohink and Syracuse and Florence and all the rivers. But it's very, it's real a time constraint because we have this narrow window. I have to then be able to take, I'm currently working on 9 permits at the same time. I'll be bringing 2 more to your council shortly. But at the end, I have to get all this organized so that when it's time to go November 1st, my crew is here 1 week, here the next week, here the next week. And if permitting in that inhibits us from getting those permits, all of a sudden I'm laying off people. Because we have a 2-week window where we don't have a job. And so it can really impact small construction businesses that really work on actually trying to get permits. And so that was one of the other considerations that I'd like to point out, that we are one of the Oregon Construction prides itself on, A, we obtain our permits, we have our permits in hand before we go do the work, and that we apply all the new environmental regulations. And it sometimes puts us at a disadvantage as a small business because we're applying all the regs. And some of our clients, you know, they talk to their neighbor and say, well, you got your dock done for $14,000. Why is mine costing $22,000? And it's almost we're the point now through the regulations and stuff, through the Army Corps, Department of State Lands, you almost can't get through the process without a consultant. It is that tough. It is that much of a burden, a regulatory burden. And so we find ourselves losing a lot of jobs in the coastal region due to the fact that there's a lot of people that will just give up on the process because it's really burdensome and they see that it costs them an extra $7,000 to get through it. And then you end up with local contractors that don't get permits, that put materials into the water that aren't environmentally friendly, that are still utilizing chemically treated wood, that don't have light penetration in their decking materials. So it puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage trying to do the right thing, but this is the route that we've chosen to go, and so that's why we're here in front of you today, is hoping that you do, you know, make sure that your process is streamlined so that we can, you know, continue to get those permits and stuff without putting such a burden on us or our clients. So that's why I was here to do, is represent Oregon Marine Construction, and I think we're on the right track. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to give us a call. We'll answer anything that you have for us. And that's, if you have a question, I'm glad to answer.
Anybody? No?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So we're jumping down all the way to new laws that may affect Dune City?
Not yet.
Not yet, what are we doing?
If you could consider, I can briefly describe the other lots that are before you and go ahead and because code doesn't say right now, our code doesn't allow me to sign off. If you just tell me that with a motion and a vote.
All right.
Did you need a motion?
Yeah, she needs a motion.
Yeah, just give me direction to do that in the form of a motion and vote. No,
Okay,
no.
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
My only concern is where would they go for appeals then? Because
Here,
Here.
they always come to us for.
she's asking, okay, then we
Yeah.
need to clarify that she is doing it and not the board approving it, because otherwise there is no appeals board.
Yeah, no, she's,
Right, so she'll do the Luxes if they
We're,
get denied or something is, they don't like with her, then they can appeal to us.
so we're giving her authority to sign
Yeah.
off
On
on
this,
this.
yeah, like she has been ever since she's been in the job.
yeah.
I just, because
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah.
if we don't do that, then they have to go to Lake
Exactly.
County for appeals.
Right, exactly.
That's-
No.
We're not in the loop right now.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's passed. So continue to do your job. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I've worked with your company for
Yeah.
4 years down at the port and really enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, they're a great company and it's a family-owned business. And in fact, if you notice, the last day, even though I'm a consultant, after I retired, I started working for my family. at Oregon Construction.
Good luck.
So thank you very much.
Good luck with that. New laws that may affect Dune City.
Actually, we're at item F,
Oh, what they skipped.
Public Works Emergency Response Cooperative
Oh,
Assistance
here we go.
Agreement.
We can make a line here. It doesn't look like there's a, all right, Public Works Emergency.
This agreement, if you read the cover letter,
Mhm.
is basically to allow all of the cities within the state of Oregon to work together. Like if a disaster hits southern Oregon, all of us will send troops down there
All
to
right,
help out and allows for reimbursement and that sort of thing. So that's what this agreement is all about. It is the mode that they're in right now. to share the wealth, if you will, and are in the process of entering into similar agreements with other states and other areas so that we can get help from nearby states if we need to. Just much like the way the fire department and police department already do it. I mean, it's already being done.
As I said, we did that a couple of years with the fire and rescue.
Only this is with regard to roadways, so we'll get roads open
Right.
and get transportation moving, so. Hopefully you've had a chance to review that contract and can approve it or disapprove signing it, and we can move on.
You need a motion to sign
We need, yes, a motion to approve it.
that? All right. I entertain a motion to have the city administrator sign that contract so that we're in Oregon Public Works Emergency Response Cooperation Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's passed.
Thank you. And the next agreement is actually a proposal
Steam float,
from CWM H2O, an engineering firm in Portland, I believe, yeah, Portland. I was gonna say Salem, but they came further than that. I asked them, I explained the situation of what we needed to have done in the immediate future, which is the water measurement as water leaves Woahink,
Right.
and as it enters Silkus, so that we get some sort of handle on conveyance system losses and that sort of thing, and what the flows are. And I said, you know, I want a quote that says everything from paint the staff gauge on the front of the outlet control structure to give me the fancy Doppler meter that can automatically send me the information. I don't have to leave the comfort of the office. And so basically they put it all together and they said, you know, this is the whole thing. If we want the whole shebang, I believe it's like $15,000.
Yeah.
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 But it's a pick and choose kind of thing. So my thought is perhaps you give me an idea how much money you would like to dedicate this. We actually did budget $20,000 last year and the year before, just for this purpose. But we never followed through on it because we were having, well, because Mr. Anderson passed away,
Right.
that's why. So, those issues, we've opened up that door again and beginning conversations again, so hopefully we'll have that resolution taken care of soon. You tell me what, I love the idea of not having to leave the comfort of the office, but, and the state, by the way, I followed up with the state and they said they really only want one measuring device, that they're fine with just one. When the engineers were out that day, we took a tour of everything and they thought, well, maybe a metering device where it goes under Clear Lake Road, since most of the facilities are there, you've got your drop, you've got everything you need there. That would be the easiest. The hardest part in that location is keeping vandals from destroying the meter and the measurement device. There is a place to measure down the Anderson driveway, inside the gates and down the driveway, but we would need to get an easement from them for access purposes to read the meter. No, I don't think it's gonna be any big deal, but we would need to do that if we want to go that route. And that way we would not have to measure where it enters to Silkus Lake. It flattens out, it makes it hard to measure. You would have to actually,
Yeah.
you know, do some dirt moving in the creek in order to put a flume in there or something in order to do the measurement, so.
So is this agreement for both measurements or one measurement?
This is for both, so yeah.
And I'm not all that opposed to having both measurements. You never know what we're gonna run into next year or whenever about what measurements we're using and how we're using it.
You're talking about a lot of dirt moving, like she said.
That's
That's a
right.
whole bunch of permits more and, yes, opening a can of worms.
Joe?
Couple of questions, or one question, do we have to go out to bid for this, or is this?
I posed that question to our attorneys and I haven't received an answer yet. Because that's an interesting question. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
And then my second comment is if we budgeted for this, it just seems like this is something that is absolutely imperative that we do. We're required by the state in order to keep our water permits and those kinds of things, to be able to determine how much water is passing from silters or from going into the silters. So I'm all in favor of, let's get her done. Let's answer the first question first. If we need to go out to bid, then we can do that. They need to be the only ones in town that do this sort of stuff. But,
Well, we have a bid from another company that I got a few years ago too.
okay.
And I could, you know, there's a number of engineering firms that might be interested in submitting a bid. I just know that our usual engineer's office does not have the proper certification.
And then I also agree with the mayor, I think two is better than one.
I like the
As a
idea
backup
too.
system and,
And for that very reason, you never know what's gonna come up next.
Too much information is never a problem.
I like the idea of having it out of sight, out of mind. I think you'd just be asking for trouble having it down here on the road.
I'm afraid it might be.
You know, if you could have it on a piece of private property where we have easement to check it, I think that's ideal.
That would be right at the dam, probably.
one of them,
Goes right to the flow, yes.
you know.
I would assume this would have to go out for bid, though.
I think the threshold is $10,000, if I remember from the state.
Right, yeah.
So it's-
Threshold is
it'll have to
10,000.
be, it's gonna have to go to bid.
Yeah, if it's considered
Well,
a
Have to,
public improvement.
it should go out to bid.
Yes,
It-
yeah.
Something of that
Right.
really should go out to bid.
Is that enough direction, or do you need a motion,
No, that's enough direction for me. I will move forward and, because I'm with you, I suspect the answer is going to be yes, but that's what I bid. But, in which case, I'll get to write my first bid proposal. Oh, goody.
I would really like to see the price for one and two, because I know picking up water at the dam where it's already confined, no construction, is gonna be installing some meters pretty much. And like you said, going out to the outlet where it basically flows out through a swamp, you're, wow.
And I have to do something more.
Yeah, that would end up being more of a guesstimate than a true measurement at that point, I think. And how much water flows through a swamp, above ground and below ground.
Okay, I will have the answer to that question, and then this would, if it has to go out to bid, it will come back to you again when we get the bids in. Thank you.
Resolution Series 218, payment of regular monthly bills before due date.
You asked me to find ways to save money.
I like
Not paying the bills late and getting charged a late fee, it's probably a no-brainer here.
Yeah.
So,
I move approval.
I like that.
but I'm not allowed to pay the bills until we get them approved, so it seems to me like the regular ones, it wouldn't be a problem. You know, the light bill, the phone bill.
Exactly.
and that
All
kind
your
of-
reoccurring business
Right.
expenses
Yeah.
should just be paid.
pay 'em.
So I've drafted up this resolution for that purpose. Yeah, the late fee on the street light bill is pretty hefty. Yeah, it can add up in a hurry. And we've been experimenting, trying, because, you know, I've talked to them and we've kind of moved the due date around, trying to find that would work the best, but there's not one. There's always a couple, 3 months out of the year that can't seem to get it done, so.
All right, do we need a motion? Are we-
You got a motion,
We got a motion.
we don't have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes.
And these will be on the monthly bills.
They
Yeah,
are-
they'll show up on the bills at the session
And
anyway.
that's our double check.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, now we're down to new laws.
Briefly, I mean, I can answer questions because I have more information, but House Bill 2140 has gone into effect. It requires the seller of real property to disclose seismic risk. It's added to the form that when you're selling a piece of property, you have to say, oh, well, plumbing and yada, 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 all that other stuff. It's added to that form. And I don't know, are you gonna ask me a question about it? You're gonna ask me, I don't wanna get it. See if I can figure it out.
Well, the question is there a requirement to have a seismologist give a prediction as to, what the risk is for people and how much would that cost people who are ready, trying to sell? And
Okay, what has been added to the form is a new paragraph 8, which asks the questions, was the house constructed before 1974? Yes, no, unknown. And if yes, has the house been bolted to its foundation? And it's yes, no, unknown. That is the biggest change. The reason being in 1974, a more stringent building code went into effect. So, yeah, it's a couple of little simple questions that they had to do. Next one, House Bill 2316 requires cities with less than 25,000 in population to determine estimated housing need for a 20-year period, do a buildable lands inventory, and adopt measures to change the comprehensive plan to meet the housing needs. That's us. We're going to be required to do a buildable lands inventory. It is a graduated schedule based on population. We're like the last year, like 2021 or something like that. But since we seem to move so quickly, I kind of like to get started on that now.
We did one of those 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago, something like that. You're supposed to do an update to your comprehensive plan at the same time, and I believe they did, but if they made changes to the comprehensive plan in 2006, they were very minor. And because the majority of the comprehensive plan, last time they updated was 1996. So it's been a while. So yeah, that one's an expense that we're gonna have to find a way to pay for. I've requested LCOG to give us an idea of what that cost might be. So I'll be able to budget for it. Okay, House Bill 2737 instructs the building commission to come up with standards for tiny homes, which they have now done. Those standards now exist for tiny homes. It was before building codes were silent with regard to tiny homes. And our code actually kind of restricts things.
It does more than restrict, yes.
House Bill 3012 allows the county to allow construction of a second residence on lots greater than 2 acres. It also allows cities of certain populations to do the same thing, meaning that you would have 2 residences on the property rather than just one if it's a greater than 2 acre piece of ground. We don't currently meet that threshold, population threshold, so we're still under the gun, below the level. We're still okay where we are, but I think it should be something that the Planning Commission at least starts taking a look at, because we're not that far away. House Bill 32, and just to let you know, in response to the housing issues, I don't know if you've heard about what the City of Portland has done, but the City of Portland has actually adopted code that allows people to have up to 5 homeless people in tents on their property, living on their property.
Wow.
So that's how bad.
On purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. Okay. House Bill 3245 allows cities to authorize Planning Commission to make amendments to the comprehensive plan maps and allows anyone who testifies to petition for review to the City Council. Used to be, well, that pretty much hasn't changed too much. That's pretty much the same thing, except for it used to be only the City Council had the authority to change comprehensive plan maps. Now that's granting that authority to the Planning Commission.
Should they?
But it still provides for the appeals process for anybody who happened to testify on Senate Bill 1051 prohibits cities of 2,500 or more population, which is not us. It prohibits city from prohibiting accessory dwelling units in single family, meaning it prohibits cities of more than 2,500 people from saying, no, you can't have two residences on your property. We are currently at 1325 for population, so it's gonna be a while before we get there, but
I think it's something that we need
that's
to
the
talk about
direction,
anyway.
yeah, that's the direction things are going right now.
The way that the world is changing, the way that housing and stuff is changing, I think we need to start taking a look at some of our older codes that restrict those types of things.
And make
As
sure that,
the population gets older and lives longer, you know, it's not uncommon to have in-laws needing a place to stay that, you know, is safe and that sort of thing. I mean, I know we permit it now, but the way the code reads is that once they leave, then you have to take it down. And I think that is ridiculous. So I think it's something that, over this year, we probably ought to start taking a look at how the world is changing and how we need to go along with it and start looking at how we help the situation instead of hinder it.
Could we set limits on how long in-laws get to stay?
Only if they're yours.
That sounds fair.
and those are the ones that jumped out at me
Yeah.
as most important. I'm sure there are other things out there that would affect the citizens more, but as far as the city goes.
And after reading them, as I went in and looked up and saw the verbiage, most of them have passed, but there's also room for amendments to them. And just a couple words, one way or the other, all of a sudden, we are involved in them.
Right.
So I think it's something that we, thank you for bringing them up, because we need to keep them in front of us and.
Information.
Yeah. Should,
And for the residents, if you guys want a copy of any of this stuff, just give us a call. We'll get that for you.
yeah, because there's some pretty interesting stuff coming out of Salem right now. So we need to stay on top of that.
It's really going to affect the city's density. Definitely.
Density, traffic, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that goes with everything. What is the timeline on the 2316, the buildable lands inventory? Did you say,
I want to say ours is
2021.
2021.
I think that's what it said,
3 years-ish?
2020 or 20.
It's about the speed
I don't
we
have
move.
a copy of it here. I actually put it in my buildable lands inventory file, which is sitting on my desk in the to-do list. But I can look that up in there.
2021, something like that.
Yeah.
I just know that we're down the road a piece, but not that far because things move very slowly.
Yes.
Is this decision by Luba, is this public information?
Yes, it
Yeah, it
is.
was in the newspaper.
Okay.
Yeah. And they covered it pretty well, I thought. No public hearings, no executive sessions. Oh, we got citizen input, move down to the, after all the other stuff. Excellent.
And Darwin already did his,
Oh, okay, so John Colwell's the only one on there.
You know, I passed, actually.
Okay.
We're all good.
Perfect. Glad to have you.
No, it's interesting.
Rob, give us a history or something.
That's all good.
All right. Good, tell us a joke. All right, down to reports. Nothing to report. Not sure if you can bring up the incidents with the sheriff department. Did they come and interview you guys?
I don't know, I haven't been in the office because I've been at the hospital with Robert.
Okay. For the rest of the council that hadn't heard about it, on my way to the 24th meeting, special meeting, my left rear tire was shot out. And the sheriff department has looked into it. They've checked it out. Wasn't a small caliber because it went all the way through. And we've had a couple incidences here at City Hall with 2 employees who have had vandalism on tire issues as well. So,
Wow.
just bringing it up.
So they're either a really good shot or not a very good shot.
Really good shot or a poor shot?
Where did that happen?
I live on North Pioneer, could not have happened in my driveway. And when I got down to Highway 101 off of Clear Lake, my tire indicator come on, and when I got here, as you guys remember from that meeting, my tire was almost dead flat at that point in time. So it had to happen within that quarter of a mile.
You didn't hear the shot?
No, I didn't, no. But then I usually have my radio blaring anyway.
Was your music sharing?
Yes, yeah.
Manager or at City Hall's parking lot.
Really?
Right out here?
Yeah, right out here.
Did you hear him shoot?
One of them, somebody let the air out, and
Oh.
that one, it was, she parked way over there.
Yeah.
Neither one of them, the cameras pick up. And the other one was a screw or a tire, which could have picked up on the road somewhere, you know,
In nighttime or day?
during the day.
All this was daytime,
Yeah, it was daytime.
Yeah, all this is daytime.
and a little coincidental.
Yeah, that they happen all
Yeah,
at
I
once.
believe that.
Yeah.
But we've, all the reporting is done, that sort of thing. And on that topic, as Sheriff Trapp told us, or reminded us when he was at a meeting here, and he'll probably do the same thing in April, they don't get many complaints from Dune City. And, which is one, a good thing, but when something does happen, people tend not to complain to the sheriff, because they know nobody's really gonna come and look if it's a stolen item or something like that. But his request is that you do that anyway, because if it's really happening, he needs to get the numbers up so that he can show a cause. Right? And he said right now, if you looked up Dune City on the national record, we'd probably be the safest place in town, and he knows it's not. You know, so, or safest place in the nation. So we need to do that. Hopefully he'll bring that up again at the April 18th meeting. And online, they actually have an online process now. You can go online, fill out the report, you know, and all that gets tallied up, and it helps his budget. It helps, hit all of his issues and reporting. So if that comes up, please do that. Community Center report.
We got the tanks tied down, secured, so that was a big deal. And the next thing on my work list, I was on the roof closing the vent or chimney up, and I noticed that I think year before I demossed, that it's time to demoss the roof again and clean it off, so I'll be doing that when the weather dries.
The weather is.
Yeah,
It's Oregon.
so I probably won't be doing it.
Water quality.
We did not have a reading this month because our equipment is off being recalibrated and checked out and fixed and
Oh, okay.
those kinds of things. So
Super.
I'm pretty confident the water's still pretty good.
Same color. and
Same color.
I'm still wet.
May I ask a question of Counselor Meyer?
Sure.
Do you know the status of the QAPP update? Okay. That's the Quality Assurance Project Plan.
Yeah, I know.
That's what it stands for. That's how water testing is done. And
Oh.
so there's been some updates,
How
and
our
I know they've been
Right,
working on it.
yeah, I
They've been
know.
coming in and working on it, so I just wondered if they were ready to publish it. So.
Maintenance supervisor, Public Works. Jamie.
You'll notice that some potholes that have been around for a long time are now filled. Yay! But, yeah, we're working on that, and we're having some trees removed off of Wright Road right now. And we had some trees taken out of the right-of-way on Maple. The trees on Wright Road are all alders. We're not taking out any of, large trees, just the alders. And the one on Maple was actually a dead cedar, which I'd hoped was salvageable, but it was not. It was rotten to the core and crumbled. And so we were very lucky that tree, because it was big, that it didn't fall on somebody's house. So, we're trying to open up the right-of-ways so that we have better vision. We invested in $700 worth of signs, trying to get the stop signs put back in, do not enter signs, the no parking signs were needed, and that kind of thing. So we're plugging away on it and keep working. And I hope that the citizens will let us know if they know of a problem where they can, that it's something that we can do, like on the corner. And it's not Rapunzel's house, just to let everybody know. It's not Rapunzel's property, but there is a bush that always blocks your view. And everybody calls Rapunzel, say, can we cut that bush down? I don't care.
Yeah.
Not mine. But yeah, those kinds of problems. Let us know where there's site issues, that kind of thing. You ready for emergency services?
Emergency services.
Okay. The big thing with WeLog right now, there was a lot of discussion that took place. A lot of phone calls were received both over at the emergency management office in Eugene and at the fire station and here at City Hall. Why didn't I get notice of the tsunami warning? You know, people want to know why. Well, it wasn't a tsunami warning, that's why. Initially, it was a tsunami advisory that changed to a watch. And both of those mean we don't know if one's really coming or not. We don't want to get you all excited. So there was a great deal of discussion at WeLog, which for those who don't know is the West Lane Emergency Operations Group. It's made up of all the emergency responders and the cities and the county and Red Cross and everybody that would be involved in a disaster of any kind. We discussed it and decided the position we would take is that the only time we would send out the notification to your cell phones and set off the sirens is if it is a tsunami warning, meaning we know there is one coming. Other than that, if it's an advisory or a watch, we're not going to notice you guys. But should a watch change to a warning, which is a possibility, we will get the word out at that point. So that's the big push right now, is to make sure everybody understands the difference between advisory, watch, and warning. Lots of upcoming training is available for different things. There's going to be exercises. It's the season for exercises. We always plan them when the weather is nice, but in truth, if there's an event, it's probably going to happen when the weather's bad. But the Stop the Bleed campaign, we talked about that, and they're planning a tabletop exercise of a surge event, meaning an event that overwhelms the hospital, so that they can figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to handle that sort of thing. Next meeting will be March 19th at the fire station. That's all I have on emergency. Oh, no, it's not. I made a trip to Salem. The surplus property place was having a 20% off sale on federal stuff. So we now have a supply of wool blankets, emergency blankets, some hygiene products, a couple of body bags, that kind of thing. So we're on our way, and it was only like $60.
Cool.
Because it was on its own.
Excellent.
Do you have specific body bags for council members or?
And it's only 2, so right now, that's the most expensive thing to purchase. It's funny, you go to these meetings, they talk about there's going to be dead people, you need to deal with that. Well, where do I get body bags? I don't know. Nobody knows where you get the body bags. Well, I found some. Tons of body bags. Okay, there were 10 building permits issued in February. There were 4 structural, but no new homes. 1 vegetation removal in the shoreland zone, which was associated with the cable company running a cable to the cable pole, to the telephone pole or whatever. And 2 permits issued for placement of facilities in the city rights of way. The CAC met on February 21st, and it finalized the review of section 155.2.3 400 and reviewed proposed language to require individuals interested in producing marijuana in the residential zone to make application and receive an approval for a conditional use permit. Also, it would require marijuana processors, which in this case is defined of all other marijuana-related businesses than growing, be allowed only in the community commercial zone and only after approval of a conditional use permit. We were directed to make a few changes and bring back the revised version to the CAC for final consideration. The March 7th meeting was canceled, and it is now rescheduled for the 28th, 29th,
The 29th.
the 29th. We had one complaint, I love them when they work out this way. We had one complaint filed in February, which actually was 2 complaints against one neighbor against the other. So it was a dispute between the neighbors, and we were able to negotiate them down. And it's now all been resolved. No need for the body bags. All right. House Bill 4086 regarding the building codes and inspection remained in committee. It was not considered before the close of the short legislative session. By the time it had gotten to the point where it was going to go to the floor, it would have required Dune City to hire a building inspector, an electrical inspector, and a building official, who would all have to be on our payroll, all of which, is about $85,000 a person.
Sure.
And with 26% PERS on top of that, and the federal government stuff on top of that, I don't know where else would have paid for it. But anyway, it's always been put off. I have contacted a couple of CPA firms from Coos Bay regarding taking Dune City on. There are no CPAs in the city of Florence who are certificated to do municipal work. And we have received a positive and favorable response from Wall and Wall and Coos Bay, whom Sheldon apparently knows. So I was really surprised.
Well, that shouldn't stand in their way, though.
Yeah, really. Is that it?
That's it. We will be hearing from them soon. They're going to send us a scope of work.
Good. Good of the order.
Listening to what Jamie was saying about the planning commission, it's such an integral part, and that's the most important committee we have out there. I think we need to have Jamie do a PSA in the newspaper and ask for somebody that can, some folks, as many as possible, that can commit to this for a long term. Can say they're gonna be there. Because this is a big deal, having the planning commission not get a quorum.
We've published press
I
releases
do.
requesting
Yeah, you send
applicants at
paper.
least 3 times.
Wow.
Couple of times.
It's that inherent problem of getting people to volunteer their time
It's just,
and commit. We have a great planning commission right now,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it's just, one of them got an advancement at work, and so now he's covering a larger area
Right.
and isn't always available. And of course, as we know, Bob is sick. Well, that was the big problem last week.
okay.
The 2 of them were sick, and once you
Yeah,
have
I
that
mean,
many
things
gone.
happen, but it's just,
Yeah,
it's nice to see enough folks.
but
on
yes,
board
it
that are
does,
infected.
it does cause a problem. And it does when you guys don't meet too. So.
Councilman Moore?
I don't think I have anything.
Councilman Gunner?
No, sir.
No? Okay. If that's the case, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, like,
Hey, is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
stay longer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we're adjourned at 7:04.
When I looked at the agenda, I thought we were gonna be here till 10.
Because I didn't
See,
see
all that
it.
stuff, like, oh my God,
I didn't understand.